For every man that claims to have genuine friends, there's about 8 men that are secretly suffering with loneliness. You know, the male loneliness has become like an epidemic, and it's not a personal failure. It's due to the fact that pop culture is shaping masculinity. And I want to talk to you today about the psychology of the male loneliness in our society and how it's shaping masculinity. Welcome to the Great Men Are Built channel. My name is Matthew Manning, and I help shy, introverted men in their 30s get into a long-term relationship. So the first thing I want to break down today in this psychology of the male loneliness epidemic is this idea of the contradiction men face. And I got to be honest with you. You know, growing up, it was pretty easy to make friends. You know, in school, you went through shared experiences with other guys, and then you went into university. It was another shared experience with guys, which was quite easy to have relationships. But what I've noticed now, as I'm in my 30s, it becomes more difficult to find men to actually genuinely connect with. And this has become an epidemic, and men are extremely lonely. I know myself, as I've gone through a massive transformation, I can't relate to my childhood friends anymore. And if you're a man that is on this channel and you're wanting to become a great man, you're going to be faced with this. And you're going to be faced with you become the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I know on my journey, it's been very difficult. You know, going from the best version of myself, that means sometimes you're going to have to shed some skins. And so the first thing that men face is this contradiction. And masculinity in pop culture demands that men have strength and be self-sufficient. So right off the bat, we can look at the challenge that men face in masculinity, specifically as pop culture shapes masculinity, is that we have to be strong and independent, and we can't ask for help. And the challenge with this, and specifically as it relates to relationships, so whether it's with family members, whether it's with friends, or specifically in a woman, right? You want to be in a man to woman relationship, you need to have vulnerability. So if you're this like lone wolf mentality, which I understand why, because the way pop culture shapes masculinity, you're going to be stuck basically on your own. And you're going to think that you need to do it on your own. You can't ask for help. But the challenge is, then when it comes to relationships, I'm walking on some crazy rocks right now. The challenge is when it comes to relationships, you don't want to be vulnerable. And that vulnerability is what allows the relationship to be built, which is super important. And so the challenge is that there's a trap that society puts us in between what they expect from us. So, you know, when I say society, I say pop culture, and pop culture is shaping how women think, right? Women are getting programmed, men are getting programmed. And so the way that society is programmed, which has basically come through media, which is news and social media and movies, right? Programming us, and we're basically not having our emotional needs met. And as men, you're supposed to not talk about this, right? You've got to be lonely, you got to be the lone wolf, you got to figure it out on your own. And the challenge is, in order for a relationship to be established, part of the way that humans connect is through vulnerability. And so it's a big contradiction, because you're supposed to be this independent man, but at the same time, you can't be vulnerable, and it just doesn't make sense. So this is a complete challenge that men are facing. And number two is, there's a difference between activity and connection, okay? So men make this mistake, and they think that you confuse proximity with connection. So you think that because I'm next to a guy, I'll give you a perfect example. Right now I'm in beautiful in the cusp. If you ever get a chance to come here, absolutely beautiful. I was in the hot springs yesterday, and we were talking about this. And we were talking about this idea how, you know, men will go to the bar together, or they'll go hang out and drink. But just because you're sitting next to a guy doesn't mean you're having connection with a guy. And so what happens is, guys fall into this trap of this illusion that you're having this activity. Maybe you're going to go play a sport or you're going to go do something with a guy. But the challenge is proximity doesn't create a relationship. You need to express ways of being vulnerable and having vulnerabilities expressed. And obviously, you want to do this in a safe environment or somewhere where you feel safe and comfortable with another man or a friend. But if you're just going out and being close to another guy, like in terms of proximity, that's not actually going to create a relationship. So the challenge is when you lack emotional connection, there's no bonding. You can't bond with the guy. You can't connect. It's just a basic fundamental when you need to establish a relationship. There has to be some vulnerability involved. And by the way, for you men that are watching this saying like, oh, that's gay or I can't do that. Well, just look at why relationships fail, right? The woman's being like, oh, I just wish we could connect. I wish we could connect. It's like, well, that's because you have to be vulnerable. You have to open up. And I'm going to share with you exactly the process and how to do this so that you still have your masculinity. So I want to break through the barriers of masculinity and how you can do this. And really, it's actually quite simple. So when we're looking specifically now in a man to woman relationship or a man to man relationship, but let's just talk woman, you need to have inner strength, emotional depth, and vulnerability. And so if you look at why relationships fail with man to women communication, is because it lacks that from the man's side. All right. It's very important to have that ability to be vulnerable. But there's a way to be vulnerable. Okay. It's not in a sense where you're like, woe is me, or being like a victim or these types of things. It's like, no, look at what I did at the beginning of the video, right? It's how you share it, right? And so, like, in terms of myself, like, I've had challenges making relationships as I've gotten older with men that I can connect with, but I'm figuring it out. And I'm actually doing that this summer. That's one of the things I'm focusing on this summer, is going to be starting to focus on my friendships, because now that my business is a bit more figured out, my relationships figured out, my family's figured out, the next extension to this is called the friend wound. So when you go through so much transformation, what starts to happen is, at least in my experience, your thoughts change, your behaviors change, your desires change. I'm looking to start a family pretty soon here, and who you are starts to change. And so the way that you used to be might not normally necessarily work. And so the way to do that in terms of building connection is you want to share vulnerability. You want to share what you're struggling with, but you're also figuring it out. You're not like, it's not something that you're like afraid of, right? Like, I'll often share, like, for example, yesterday I just met people in the hot springs, and I'll often share like, yeah, I struggled with alcohol, you know, but now I'm sober for 10 years, right? So these are the things that you do. And so one of the things you want to do is you want to make small disclosures about yourself to open doors of connection. And this is very, very important. You need to open doors of, you need basically pathways to connect. And that's how humans are able to connect, is through vulnerability. And it's basically just not talked about and not accepted in pop culture and mainstream media. And then guys are led to believe that this isn't being man enough, or, oh, this is gay or something like this, right? And it's like, no, you got to connect. And by the way, if you want to be successful in your relationship, you want to have a long lasting relationship, you better figure this out, because basically nowadays men are emotionally constipated. And again, that comes down to the programming. So this is why we're trying to break through this. So there's a lot of deep psychology as it relates to the male loneliness epidemic. So if you're wanting to connect, I'm creating a community of men. It's just for a small group of people that are really serious about learning man to woman communication and also connecting with other guys in the same space. I know often some of the guys in my community, what they have said is they say, this is so strange. I have had friends for 20, 15 years, and you guys are from around the world. We just met, and I feel like I'm closer to you than my friends down the road. I've been in a relationship for 15 years, or hanging out with them for 15 years. And I just met you guys on the internet, and I feel a lot more connected to you. It's like, well, yeah, you know why that is because of vulnerability. But there's a key to this, and it's a lot deeper than what I can let you know here. So if that's something you're interested, click the link below. Let's jump on a call. Let's see if you're a fit for this community. And I'd love to have you in there. I'd love to share with you some of this stuff and then get you connected to a brotherhood. You know, a brotherhood. You know, back in the day, we used to have clubs and communities where we'd be around other men and we'd share ideas with each other and shape and hold ourselves accountable and our family members and all this type of stuff. And we've kind of lost that. So, you know, this is that way where we can go back to that and really start to build a better future for ourselves. So if that's you, click the link below, jump on a call. Let's see if it's a fit, see if it's something you're wanting to join. All right, with that being said, take care and have a wonderful rest.